Hey, this is News Rocky. Kevin coming to you live. Yes, we are at the 80 Broadway, downtown Norwich studio, the Forward TV studio, bringing you News Rocky Monday through Friday. We bring you this content at 4 p.m. each and every day. So today's show is going to be quite interesting. We've actually are so excited. We're going to have a special guest, from across the country. We're going to be talking to somebody out of California, actually someone who is totally opposite politically, probably socially and alike, but a very likable person. I'm a huge fan of this gentleman I'll be introducing on TikTok. I follow him, and we just sent a message out, and lo and behold, I'm so humbled that he's honored us on News Rocky to come on the show. I'm going to be introducing Abe Gurko in a moment. Won't be silent is really the best way to say. But in a moment on News Rocky, you'll be hearing all the thoughts from California, and our friend Abe Gurko won't be silent. Be back in a moment. Welcome back to the News Rocky Show, folks. This is Kevin, your host, and again, we're just so pleased that we have a special guest from California calling into the show today. We're going to talk about all the topics of the day, the political situation in this country, the divide in this country, and get some opinions from folks that really don't agree with the News Rocky story concept, but the News Rocky is more about having that conversation respectfully, not just getting in the ring and beating people up, but really trying to solve some problems. And the only way we're going to do it is by having a conversation. I want to now introduce Abe Gurko. Won't Be Silence. It's the Won't Be Silent is I assume this is a tag that you work by. You are a video, photo, content producer, social media influencer on YouTube, I Mean What TV, Facebook. You can see Abe at I Mean What, TikTok at Won't Be Silent. Abe, welcome to the News Rocky Show. How are you doing in California? Can you hear me, Abe? Just take it off. Take it off. There you go. Just unmute. Yep. Can you hear me now?
Hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. So we fixed it.
We sound like boomers.
We sound like baby boomers.
Yeah, am I working? Is this on?
Yeah, we have a couple. Yeah, we're a couple of yentas here trying to figure out exactly how we get our equipment work. Listen, I'm not technical. I don't know if you're technical. I am not a technical guy. I have a lot of people around here help me all the time. Are you real technical?
Quasi,
Yeah.
Very basic, but if I need to get something done, I'll figure it out.
So, Abe, I'm 51 years old. How old are you?
I am 64.
So you're a little older than me, but we kind of come from the similar generations. I introduced you as sort of this, you've been around sort of the world, I think. I think you have an interesting story. I opened up with, for the listeners, News Rocky, I'm a big fan of your TikTok videos and what you put out for content. I think you're very entertaining. And actually, I love to hear opposite opinions of my own. But let's hear a little story about you. I mean, how did you end up in California and even on this social media platform? Give me the beginning, kind of speed it through to California.
I'll give you the psychiatrist couch.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'm from originally the East Coast. My parents are immigrants, and they survived the Holocaust, and we moved to a little town. They didn't want to stay in the, enclave of Brooklyn, so they moved out to New Jersey.
Okay.
To a town where we were like the only Jews, and I was the recipient of anti-Semitic attacks since I was 5 years old.
Really?
So that is what made me, I think, automatically want to always find out like what it is I can do to resist, the evils that exist in our world, Mm-hmm. And in an early age, I just stopped believing that people were good. I just thought that I listened a lot to stories that my mother was, when she was in Dachau, and the horror stories of that and the ghetto life. And I just, I decided at a certain age that I didn't want to have much to do with Judaism because that would lead to being put in a concentration camp. Okay. So I kind of became very assimilated.
Okay.
And unlike the rest of my family that were very kind of traditional, suburban, we moved on up to a better neighborhood within New Jersey over the George Washington Bridge, where it was a much more, affluent environment. And I just didn't really feel connected to that. I was bused to an all black high school because the town we were living in was so small. We didn't have our own public school system, like high school. So I've always kind of been this kind of not feel like I'd fit anywhere.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's actually been what it's been my greatest gift, to be honest.
Wow.
And my dad died when I was young in high school, and I proceeded to go on to kind of figure out, well, what kind of life do I want to live? Because I inherited his business. I didn't want anything to do with it. And I just set out on a journey to find, my path, really. And it's been an extraordinary journey. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been in a lot of, addiction issues that I've combat, but it's all been part of everything. It's like that expression that, things happen and then you learn and grow from that, and it's led me to some extraordinary circumstances. I worked on and off for years with Carrie Fisher as her sidekick. And that was an extraordinary learning opportunity, and funny and tragic, and learned the insights. It was like I moved to Los Angeles, I think it was 1989.
Okay.
From New York City. And coincidentally, someone from grade school was her assistant, and she was looking to hire somebody else to help her with her writing projects, because Carrie was a big writer, a script writer back then.
Right.
And, it was like, boom, it was like this Alice through the looking glass, because once you get on the other side, when you're on that level of A-list celebrity,
yeah,
it's like a whole different world. It's not like people kind of networking at these kind of situations, the suits of Hollywood. This was, you get into the pit of A-list celebrity.
How long were you doing that for, Abe, in that field, working with
I did it from 92 to 94, 91 to 94, and then I did it again from 89, from 91 to 94. Then I moved back to New York.
Yep.
Then I moved back to LA in 2008, and then I did that for a few years. And I'm losing track of time.
You've been friends with Amy. I mean, a tragic story, as you said. Were you friendly with her right up until recent? Obviously.
Actually, the last thing with her is I was working with her again when she went back to England to become, Princess Leia again.
Yep.
So between 2013 and 2015, I worked with her again, and we had a bad falling out, and I didn't see her for the last year of her life. And when she and then she OD'd. So,
do you miss that relationship with her?
Huh?
Do you miss that relationship with her?
Oh, I mean, of course. It was, there was nobody like her, and we had a very unique repartee, because we would always be one-upping our one-liners. You know what I mean?
How influenced was her mother around quite often in your
yes,
experience?
She lived on the property. Carrie lived on this big estate, like this 6-acre estate in Beverly Hills, and the front house was, part of the estate was in the similar design aesthetic. And her mom had her own house on the property. It was like sprawling, beautiful, amazing.
The compound.
And so that was that. And then in between the celebrity Carrie Fisher years, the thing when I moved back to New York in what was it, 1992. I'm so old, I'm losing track.
That's all right. That's all right. Don't. It's fine.
Back to New York City, I was like, what am I gonna do?
Right.
And I figured, every day with Carrie Fisher was a special event. So I said, I'll do special events. So I got immediately involved with fundraising. It was the 90s. So I got very involved with fundraising for AIDS organizations.
Sure.
And that just put me into a trajectory of doing huge, big, high-profile events and races in Central Park. And awesome. It was just, I was very lucky with how my life unfolded. And it was always, one thing led to another. This person said to do this. And it's always finding the path. You know what I mean? It's always been that way.
Abe, how do you find your pathway into the political commentary that you so get excited for on your TikTok channel? Where does that come from? Because I hear a lot about the background and your experience coming up. Where did you start feeling more the need to be politically heard?
Okay, so in 2000, so I had moved back, as I said, I moved to Los Angeles in 89 to 94. Then I moved back from 98 to 2001. After 9/11, I moved back to New York because I was living here in 9/11. Long story, we don't have time to get into that.
Yeah.
But then I moved to Amsterdam for 2 years. So in 2003, I moved back to New York City and I was doing these events and blah, blah, blah. And then in 2008, the economy tanked, remember?
Sure.
And everyone in New York City, I was primarily focused in the fashion industry, and the industry went to shit.
Okay.
And then just to combat everyone's horror of being like compromised, everyone was kind of all these PR firms and these event firms were starting these like blogs, and they were all trying to be like acting like everything was fine when I knew everything wasn't fine. So I started a blog called I Mean What, which I was like the purveyor of everyone, like the emperor's new clothes, the bullshit about politics. When everyone's pants were dropped, they were acting like they were not dropped. So I was just calling people out on their stuff. And I became very political then because it was the Obama years, and I became very verbal. I mean, it's still up. I don't do it anymore, but I mean what.com is still there.
Okay.
And there is some hilarious shit. In 2012, I used to have this thing called the Gross Baboon of the Year Awards.
Okay.
And Donald Trump won in 2012. So he's been on my radar way before he got into the presidency, you know what I mean?
So when you say back in 2008, that administration was under Obama, did you feel politically that that administration was doing what they, 'cause you're heavily, sort of criticizing the Donald Trump, and we'll get into that. But did you support Barack Obama in office when he served?
Yeah, I'm a diehard Democrat.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Okay.
If we lost this election, I would have definitely left the Democratic Party and registered as an independent.
Okay.
This was the last chance for the Democrats because there's such a bunch of pussies. You can't even, they're the worst at messaging. They can't message their way out of a paper bag. And I vowed to, if we didn't take this, if Trump won again, I would definitely leave the Democratic Party. So unfortunately, I don't have to.
No, well, you're victorious and your party won. But so let's, Abe, again, we're talking with Abe Gurko, who is I'm going to call you sort of like you got a really interesting story. Your life is cool.
You can call me an opinionator.
That's an opinionator. Okay, like the Terminator, you're the opinionator, and you listen to your content, and we're going to make sure we keep telling people where to go to find you. We'll definitely post it up on the News Rocky Show. I think what you bring to the conversation is, it's entertaining, but you're passionate. I can tell you that. There's no doubt there's passion. Where does it go under, let's say Obama leaves office 2016, Donald Trump comes in. Did you give Donald Trump any chance in the beginning, or you were dead out to fight against everything he did from the beginning?
I mean, the thing is, one of the organizations that I raised money for in New York City for 5 years is this thing called God's Lovely Deliver. And the angel that helped finance and help fundraise that I worked with was Donald Trump's sister-in-law, Blaine Trump.
Okay.
And she was awesome. Robert's wife, ex-wife. Mm-hmm. And she told me a lot about how it's not about fundraising, it's about friend raising. And she was just an extraordinary woman. Mm-hmm. And Donald was nothing anywhere near as fabulous as her. Mm-hmm. And he was always like, whenever we would do big events and Donald would show up, it was always like, his energy is weird. His presence is, there's the presence of power, like somebody like Jackie Onassis, that you could feel her like behind your head in the back of your neck stands up when she enters the room behind you. Something has just happened. Right. And then there's somebody like him where it's like all of a sudden there's a dimming of the lights. It's just weird. So I've never appreciated his energy. I didn't appreciate his birtherism thing. And there was no reason to give anybody that. Look, I was bused to an all-black high school, so part of me is like black, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just do not appreciate what he was doing. And I'll tell you why as we go along, but that set the stage for me to know that he can't be trusted, because I don't think he believed that anyway. You know what I
Believed
mean?
what? Say, explain what you
I don't
mean.
think he believed that Barack Obama was not born
Okay,
in.
so you're on to where he was born and the question in his birth certificate. And quite honestly, as a conservative Republican, and just so you know, I served in the state house in Connecticut here as a state representative for one term. I was what you would call a mayor in 2 terms in a local town. I actually am a retired correction officer, odd pathway to this whole world. Retired after 21 years here in Connecticut. But I find it kind of interesting when you're kind of rolling out your reasons why. You have some personal interaction with Donald Trump and his family in your time in New York, and I can understand that. But as the president of the United States, what is it that really sets you off to be not I don't want to say defending, you're defending the Democratic sort of position quite often, but why is it so energized for you to attack this president or the former president?
Because I feel like he's really okay. Way early on into this, before the election, before November 2016.
Yep.
Here in Los Angeles, when the last few years, after Carrie died, I was producing a lot of photo shoots and video shoots and stuff here, and that was what I did for work.
Mm-hmm.
And on one of these shoots, I met somebody who was the guy that used to be with Donald Trump in the beginning, and then he was a pundit on CNN for a while, a real douchebag. I forget his name, but he's one of the henchmen, one of the early henchmen.
Okay.
And it was a childhood friend of his.
Okay.
And he admitted to this guy, and who told me in confidence, not even in confidence, just it's one of those things. It's a small world. There's no such thing as secrets,
Right.
That Donald Trump was intending to lie about everything and be the kind of sensationalist candidate because he knew it was going to attract the people that it ultimately did attract. He was very strategic in what he wanted to do, how he wanted to say it, the upheaval that he was going to create. And that kind of manipulation, I feel, is not only unforgivable, but is unacceptable when you see what it has led to, that where 15 to 20% of the American people now believe a lot of this QAnon stuff. And that's because he egged that on for years. And it was inevitable. Listen, if I gave him the Gross Baboon of the Year award in 2012, by the time he was president, it would already have cemented in my mind that this man is pure, unadulterated, self-prophesizing cow and evil. And there was nothing he could do in the White House, even if he had given me a windfall of money. See, the thing is, I'm not rich. When you go on the path that I've been on, money is the last thing that you chase. You chase the experience, you chase the story, you chase the interaction with people. I chase connection and conversation, and it's just he represents everything opposite of me. So the other thing he did, which goes even before 2012, which goes into the groovy part of New York City when I was kind of in a Studio 50th floor club kid, is that he and Giuliani made New York City like vanilla. He took apart all the things and Disneyfied, and he was the essence of what a yuppie was. And I, who had fallen more into the category of hippie-ish, was completely on the other end of the spectrum. So it has very little, his politics have nothing to do with anything I don't like about him. It's everything that he stands for. Gaudy, his taste, his style, it's just everything wrong.
So it's safe to say you're not a Trump supporter.
It's safe to say I'm not a supporter.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So before we get further, do you have any friends, personal, close contacts in your life that are somebody who would be on the Trump side of, sort of the narrative?
Yeah, family members. And, and the reason why they support him is not because they like anything about him. but they're in real estate and they feel like that's like an advantage, and the tax, the codes, and things that don't affect me. You know what I mean? So I don't, you see, my relationship with money is that to be all about money is to really be missing the point of why you're on earth. Yes, I know it brings freedom, and I know comforts of home and all that is, for some people means more than the things that mean something to me. You know what I mean? But I think that he's just everything wrong with the culture that America started becoming very wrong when it became less about an inspiration and more about aspiration. And to aspire to a life like a Kardashian or a Trump, is it not? It's like, so you have a big ass that you've implanted, or you have a gold toilet. I mean, tell me what it is that really is so satisfying. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. It's not it's not a pacifier for me. So now, I'm not going to try to explain to anybody to be like me.
Right.
I think more people would not want to be like me because of the challenges and the hardships I've gone through. But I keep emerging, and the emerging of challenges is the most powerful, dynamic, like reinventing myself at 50 years old when I did was an extraordinary like feeling of elation, and that I can do this, and that no one's going to get me down. And that's because my parents survived the Holocaust. So I have a gene in me that many people don't.
You're a fighter. You're a fighter. You're not going to give up.
Huh?
You sound like a fighter.
I rely on that. That's my money in the bank is just me. You know what I mean? And that is invaluable. It's what I've decided. I mean, I could, some people whose parents survived the Holocaust are very emotionally crippled.
Right.
You know what I mean? And everyone's different. But I've decided to, as I said earlier in this thing, to take my life experiences as, this was the gift, this was the teaching moment. What did I learn from this? My dad died young. Of course, a few years were very spent in drugs and addiction and whatever, because of the relationship that never would get established because of that. However, at the end of the day, it's what makes me really strong as a man growing up without having to rely on a father to be a handout, Like Donald Trump made his success because he had a dad, And without a dad, what would he have been? He sounded like a pussy. But I can't go to war because of my shins, whatever. You know what I mean?
So you just called the former president of the United States a pussy on the News Rocky show.
I would never grab.
But so what do you listen? And I want to be clear in the fact that clearly I am a Trump supporter. I mean, I'm on record for that. In fact, here's a quick factoid. I actually got elected in 2016. Abe, you might appreciate this, as the 45th House representative, and the top of the ticket was the 45th president, Donald Trump. You do know I have that ballot at home. I saved it, right?
I'm sure you have it framed.
Framed, and I look at it and kiss it every night. Listen, I think all politics is broken. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. I mean, first of all, I think, to be honest, and even you're not a politician anymore, right?
No, so I'm in the media business. This is my show. Like you just said, 50 years old. At 51 years old, I committed to getting on this project. I'm doing this to monetize it as an income. So I'm 100% changed my life.
Good. So I think if you wake up and say, I'm going to be a politician, and all the phone conversations or all the meetings that you have is about somebody giving you money, as you know, my feelings on money, you know what I mean? So I have an innate distrust of politicians.
You trust Nancy Pelosi?
I mean, she's a politician beyond a politician because it's in her family upbringing. But do I trust her? I mean, I don't trust many people. So it has nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi versus my next door neighbor. I just think that she stands for like truth, justice, and the American way much more than 90% of the Republican senators.
Lesser of two evils? The lesser of two evils?
I come and go with her. I mean, I love her in terms of when she, looks into the camera to the press when she's doing those briefings and makes a point that only Nancy Pelosi can make. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's certain things that she is the only one that can communicate. But, compare somebody like her to somebody like Mitch McConnell. I mean, Mitch McConnell doesn't deserve to breathe the air in America.
You hate Mitch McConnell?
Pardon?
You have a hatred for Mitch McConnell.
I feel like I've always said he's a little more evil than Donald Trump. Donald Trump was just in it for the money. So, but Mitch McConnell is in it much more for the sinister, what's everything negative about the Republican Party, especially where it is now. Now, you can be as Republican as you want, mm-hmm. but if you can look at me in the eye mm-hmm. or ear to ear on this thing yep. and say that you support half of the people that are in there now, that with the illegal election and the QAnon conspiracies, then I think you need to, go to therapy.
So I might need therapy, because I'm going to tell you that maybe I'm tainted in a sense too, Abe, because I've been behind the curtain, right? So I've seen both sides of that kind of conversation, and I will say to you that there's a lot of kookiness across the board, both in Democrats and Republicans, that we see on the national front. I do think that term limits is a conversation that you and I probably wouldn't argue on, right?
No way. I'm sure there's a lot of things we could agree on.
100%.
I think Donald Trump wouldn't be one of them.
And that's okay that we don't agree on Donald Trump, because I often say this, Abe, it's important for folks that want to have the conversation. We can't fix the future without experiencing what we did together. We all went through George Floyd. We're going through COVID. We all went through an experience from 2016 where Hillary Clinton and the Clintons, who were, she was the worst candidate possibly. Personally, I think the Democratic Party screwed Bernie Sanders over then in 2016. I think he was the candidate that it should have gotten. He probably would have been a hell of a lot better than Clinton. If you get Donald Trump, I do think some of the policies Donald Trump's done in his position as president, lessening some of the burden to the economy. I'm not sitting here and arguing you're down your path, Abe. You don't. Money's not a deal, but to me, the economy doesn't work for any of us unless the economy's working for all of us. What do you think?
The economy is not working. He does not. First of all, let me just say, I don't think he put many things in place. I think he's just a pawn. And I think people like Mitch McConnell and the people behind him mm-hmm. were the ones that put in all the policies, just like with George Bush and Cheney. Cheney was the puppet master. Bush was the puppet. Trump was just a big bloviated version of a Bush, because the people behind him is what motivated a lot of the...
Wait, but Abe, everyone loves the Democrats. Michelle Obama holds George Bush's hands every time they're in public now, together. There's a love affair of these insiders. You've seen it, right?
Yeah, because she's got nothing to gain from him, so why shouldn't she just appreciate him for the kind of innocent puppy that he ended up being at the end?
I listen, I was a Bush supporter, and 9/11, when he got up on that car, and I hear you, we hear you, the whole video that went out and viral, you were in the city of New York, you said, during the...
No, I was in LA, but you want to know something? If you look at my arm...
Yeah, please.
Look at my arm.
Okay.
You see that?
Yes.
That eagle, the American eagle?
Yep.
You know when I got that? September 12th, 2001. Because I was right there with Bush. Mm-hmm. So, again, I am not that devout where I'm not willing to give people a chance. I think he was coming from a good place.
At that time.
He ever came from a great place, but I definitely think he wanted to feel like he was going to do something in response to that,
Right. And
maybe it was the wrong thing and all that other stuff that spins out. But at the end of the day, it was because of Cheney that George Bush ended up becoming like the shell of a man that he is.
Do you think the Epstein issue that's going on, and I don't know if that's a topic you're involved in sharing on your commentary, but Epstein was obviously a big player, and you look at George Bush's brother, Jeb Bush, was the governor of Florida, actually, when that first sentence went out, and the feds told Florida, you handle it. George, then President Jeb, just left governor. Do you think there's a little more corruption behind that with Maxwell and the Epstein issue? What's your opinion on that?
Oh my God. I think Maxwell, I mean, again, that's the extension of, the people that think they're so entitled because they have money and power. It's unconscionable that this, Epstein, it's just the corrupt. It's again, it goes back to what you said. It's the corruption in both sides of the government, but it boils down to people who crave that kind of power and crave the money that comes with it. I think are already corrupt, because what their motivation is not pure. I mean, the most recent, I'm going through another reinvention at this particular moment that TikTok is just a part of that. I don't know if you want to get into this now, but
yeah, go ahead. Any way you want to go, Abe. We're good.
Ask me more questions.
All right. Well, I mean, staying online with that whole concept, we brought up the Maxwell issue and Epstein and the Clinton involvement. And you're in the Hollywood industry in a sense. You've been in this industry with all your experiences. I watched just recently. I watched the show about the Fox News anchor. It was just came out with.
That was a good movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, and in that movie that was depicted was just and Roger Ailes was a disgusting pig, right? There's nobody going to argue that Roger Ailes wasn't a disgusting pig. But you have people like Weinstein. You have people like other people who have been identified in Hollywood, and a lot of the involvement sort of speculates that maybe there's a connection to Epstein. Why have we not seen a movie about Weinstein and all his victims?
That's actually in motion, actually.
Is it really? Thanks. See, insider scoop from Abe, man. Thank you. Tell me about it.
That's definitely, from what I know, there's a couple of scripts that are, I mean, look what happened. We had to close all of Hollywood down. You know what I mean?
You were out there during this process when this all broke in Hollywood?
Yeah, I live here now.
Right. So I'm saying you experienced it. You're in the industry. You're around it. Tell me how that all, were people running away?
Yeah, my film has been on hold since March. It's fucked up.
What film you have on hold?
That's part of my next thing that I just want, that I was going to lead.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, let's just talk this in the industry. Do you not think that the corruption of that industry is an example of really how sick our society is? I mean, the pedophilia industry that seems to be so entrenched with politics and Hollywood and money. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think it's time for us to root out all the scumbags and start killing them in the town square?
Well, I think that corruption, whether it's Hollywood or Washington, D.C., is fucked up, okay? Because the corruption in Hollywood boils down to that same incentive, which is money and power, So with somebody like a Weinstein is like a Trump. What good are they? The only difference is that Weinstein churned out a lot of fucking good movies.
Yeah, so he made a lot of money for people.
But he made a lot of good movies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Making movies and making people happy by being at that movie or seeing that film is something that you can't take away from even the most evil, you know what I mean?
But that's you're saying that Roger Ailes created good content for a population of people. Should he have been forgiven for his stuff?
No, I don't think he should be forgiven, and I don't think Harvey Weinstein should be forgiven, and I don't think, anyone that's a pedophile should be forgiven. You know what I mean? There's things you don't forgive people for.
Right. Right.
But on the same note, doesn't teachings of spiritual growth teach you first and foremost that to forgive is probably the greatest gift you could give to yourself?
Come on, you and I both want to punch him in the nose.
Well, of course, but I wouldn't even waste my energy. I would just probably just look at her and just him, whatever, and just the disdain alone would just work. You've never seen me give the evil eye.
Well, I'm sure we will. So, Abe, why don't you switch over, talk a little politics, talk a little bit about you. We'll tie back in at the end here on some of the political stuff and let the people listening to News Rocky find out where they can find you. Why don't you talk about that project you got coming up? I'm excited to hear you have something on hold with a movie.
Okay, so as I told you way in the beginning, I kind of became assimilated from the religion, right?
Yep.
And so it comes out around the time the Nazis were marching in Charlottesville. What was that, 2.5 years ago?
You're saying in Virginia?
in Charlottesville, it's Virginia,
Yeah,
right?
right. So Charles, and you're talking the one that the president denounced.
Yes, but when the Nazis were marching in Charlottesville,
Yeah.
the Jews will not replace us.
Yep.
That day, something sparked in my head, right?
Did you become a Jew again?
I didn't become a Jew again, but I just said I cannot believe we're using the term Nazi so frequently,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and which goes right back to Trump. So coincidentally, the Holocaust Museum sent my family an email. My uncle was killed hours before the liberation of the camp that he was in.
Really?
He was a composer and a conductor and very well known in Europe before the war.
Mm-hmm.
And he and a friend wrote a song of resistance to the Nazis that because he was killed, went disappeared and whatever. 72 years after he was killed, someone who survived that camp went and said, write down this song. This is the song that became my mantra that kept me alive. And hearing that, I figured, you know what? There's a movie in here somewhere, so I'm going on this journey. So the past 2.5 years, I've been journeying to make this film. So the lyrics, the original lyrics of this song, my uncle wrote the music, not the lyrics, but the original lyrics are called Stay Silent, because once you were in the camp, you had no option to resist. All you could do is resist within. So don't let them take your tears. Don't, it's all about, they can't stop you from being strong inside. That's your only way you can resist them. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that was what the lyrics translated to, I said, I can't give my uncle that legacy. So I had my friend Cara Diaguardi, who's a songwriter, rewrite the lyrics, and now the song is called Won't Be Silent. So the journey of this piece of music that's emerged from the ashes of the Holocaust is being turned into a modern day anthem for social justice. So I'm having all these different artists interpret the music because we're at a time in our culture where we, especially 2 years ago, leading into the election cycle, mm-hmm. we need to resist. I mean, there's no question that we have concentration camps at our borders. I mean, just the fact that we're using that term, you know what I mean? And for me, who'd been so resistant to the whole Judaism and the heritage of that, it became like, I'm going to honor this, and I'm going to make a movie that will speak to. So it's not just going to be about the Holocaust, but it's about whether you're in the concentration camp, the cotton fields, or the inner city streets. People turn to music as a way of salvation. And from oppression comes music and art. And that is what the theme of the film is going to be about. Mm-hmm. So we've been filming, and I've had like various versions of it and interviews with people, and it's really interesting. And it's all about, again, which brings me back to the beginning of my life. This project has had me see that there are angels on earth, because the people that have been showing up for this project are literally angels. They go out of their way to be part of this because of the statement it's making, because of the intention it comes out, because, the fact remains, when they were putting the kids in those concentration camps 2 years ago, I was so flipped out because I was already knee deep into filming. I said, I need to do this. I need to get this song translated into Spanish so that I could have the Spanish, Latin community understand this song. And sure enough, in a spin class, as randomly as being in a spin class, this woman next to me goes, we get into a conversation. I was telling her what I was doing. She gave me her friend who's like a big pop singer in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, we were down there recording the song in Spanish.
Is the song out now, Abe? Can you hear the song, or has it not been released?
I mean, of course you could hear it because
send it to me. I'd love to hear the song. Is the movie now tabled because of coronavirus and all that stuff? Is that what's holding up?
We're still continuing to raise. We were on a roll. We were raising money. We were filming. Mm-hmm. So now we kind of have to regroup, and we're just putting in, applications for grants and stuff. So the things that we need to film next are going to mean we have to travel. So
is it a documentary style film? Is that what it is, or no?
Documentary style, yeah, but it's telling my uncle's story. The thing about my uncle's story that's really incredible and very cinematic, which is going to be that we're going to film reenactments for some of these scenes, because before he went to the concentration camp, he was the he was the conductor of the Vilna Symphony Orchestra. And when the Jews were put into the ghettos, he would still get a dispensation to go and conduct, but had to go back to the ghettos every night.
Okay.
So him and his other musician friends smuggled in all the various instruments to create an orchestra in the ghetto, and including a piano, which they disassembled and assembled piece by piece. And they had 35 concerts. The Vilna Ghetto Orchestra was one of the cultural ghetto, believe it or not, it was a very cultural community within the horror of being in the midst of the Holocaust. And he started a 100-voice choir, a children's school for music, just because it boils back to, for my uncle and for people, like when the slaves were on, the cotton fields, they sang spirituals, and that was their way to be able to deal with the situation of their life.
So, Abe, you're talking about your uncle's video, and I got to tell you, we're winding down here, and an hour goes fast, or 40 minutes or so. We got about 5 minutes left. I want to first ask you, would you be willing to come back on? Because I think we missed out on some really good, healthy political debate that you and I think we're getting to know.
Definitely have a comeback.
We're getting to know each other, so probably the next time we'll be saying some really explicit words to each other at some point, which is
I want to say that I'm actually really glad to find out that I wasn't clear that you were, because I thought you were in Canada. That's why I was like,
what's the whole Canadian thing, dude? I mean, what gave you that idea?
I guess I heard Canada when you said Connecticut.
So okay.
I'm telling you, I'm a senior citizen.
All right. It's so good.
I really am glad that you're a conservative, because I've been getting some requests from people to want to have conversations like this in light of where we are now. So yeah, we should definitely have a much more focused on politics conversation.
I think we should. So you and I maybe will set up a talk where we can talk a little more. I'd love for you to continue the story with your uncle. Again, Abe, where can people find you? Let the people watching News Rocky go and locate you on the different platforms.
I mean, if you're going to primarily, if you go to TikTok, go to Won't Be Silent. It's like @Won'tBeSilent is my handle there. Other than that, just go to won'tbesilent.com. You'll see the website, a little bit about the film. You'll see the sizzle reel, so you can see the story in 5 minutes. That gives you this whole breadth of the project, because it's extraordinary. We've been around the world so far, and we intend to continue. So won'tbesilent.com. TikTok, Won't Be Silent for sure. Follow me there. And again, it's been a joy to be here.
I appreciate it so much. Abe, Paula will be reaching out to you. We're going to set it up. You and I will have a conversation. We're definitely going to have you come back. And thank you so much. And
I want to, maybe we could do that on an actual Zoom where I could see you. Is that possible?
100%. We'll set that up in the future where you'll be able to, because I think it would be a lot better. I agree. It's hard sometimes to, have that conversation. If you can't see my facial expressions, I get to see yours. Abe, thank you for coming on today.
Before we go.
Yes.
YouTube is Won't Be Silent channel. So please, I'm just putting an energy into that.
Yep.
And I'm doing interviews there. So that's why I want to make sure you and I
100%. Looking forward to working with you on anything. And again, Gabe,
Abe, inviting me. This was fun.
Abe, one of the most important things is if we can do anything for the listeners of News Rocky, the folks that follow you, the message I want to say is this is the opportunity. We need to speak to each other, even if we don't agree. Abe, thank you. God bless, and you have a great day. We'll talk soon. I'm just going to finish here with my last couple minutes of commentary. I got to tell you that the News Rocky show has become something I'm not really sure exactly how we got here, but I can tell you I'm so enthusiastic and so happy and pleased that we've had the opportunity to meet people like Abe Gurko, who's telling his story. Yes, he's a Democrat. Yes, he's strongly opinionated. Yes, he doesn't have any interest or support of the Republican Party in general, but an honest guy who's telling his story is important. See, the problem across our great country today is we're divided. We're divided so so that each and every one of us take a position, we root into that position, and we don't allow that conversation to be open for others who don't agree. This is one of the major issues in our country. As Abe was telling us about his historical facts and his past history, his parents being in the Holocaust, his uncle who he's doing a movie about. Listen to that story and how it affected him. Although Abe doesn't see the same way I see America, this is our America together. And the bottom line at the end of the day is I have to appreciate everyone across the aisle, everyone that's on the same team as I might be, representing the conservative view. But each and every day on News Rocky, we're going to reach out to people, try to learn, try to understand, and try to fix the future of America. Thank you for getting the ring today on News Rocky. If you have any suggestions, send these messages to us, send emails to us. Let us know if you want to hear other stories. If you have recommendations for different topics, please let us know. Again, News Rocky comes to you Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. from the downtown Norwich, Connecticut, right here. And we are part of the Forward TV station here that's just launching so much great material. Thank you again for being with News Rocky today.